Hey everybody, welcome back to School Sucks Live. This is Brett. With me in the studio tonight is Cory.
Hello.
And for some reason, because I'm kind of an amateur, I've dumped Larken Rose's call in favor of bringing on a guy named...
Andrew?
Andrew, yes.
From California.
Now, Andrew, you're on the phone with us, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I got to get Larken Rose back on the phone, so I'm going to hang up on both of you, call him, and then I'm going to ask you to call back in 1 minute. And that, folks, is how radio usually works behind the scenes.
At least the way we do it.
All right, so we'll just give me 2 minutes to get him reconnected, and then we'll bring you back on.
Okay, I'll give you a call back here in 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Larken Rose. Just going through my contacts here, folks. This is a thing that happens sometimes. Larken Rose, Larken Rose. Where is Larken Rose?
Under R for Rose, maybe?
Calling Larken Rose.
Was that under R for Rose?
This is fine. You know what? This is a video show, and people should know what's going on behind the scenes. We are back with Larken Rose. Larken, sorry about that. Still learning the little phone system here, and by the phone system, I mean Skype.
No problem.
So, before we went to the break, we were talking about people do respond to moral arguments, moral justification, and they recognize a moral authority. In fact, in the book, you have a section called Noble Motives, Evil Actions. And in this section, you talk a little bit about the Nazis and how they used false flag, basically terror attacks, to justify their first expansion to the east towards Poland. But, the noble motives for the evil actions was nothing new even then, right? I mean, Hitler was talking about the Lebensraum, which was living space in German, if you don't
right. If you don't speak German.
Or if you don't understand poorly pronounced German.
Right.
Lebensraum. Is their word. They said they were being closed in on, and they had gone through centuries in that part of the region with different, or that region of Europe with different imperial struggles. And he said, "Hey, man, we need to spread out. It's going to be fine. We deserve it." So there was always something like that attached to everything they did. I mean, they
also went to the point of making other countries not only saying we deserve it, but saying other countries were less deserving. I think what Hitler once said about Poland was that Poland has no borders, only neighbors. So it wasn't even just about saying, like, we're Germany, we deserve it. It's just saying, we're Germany, not only that, but all these other countries around us are inferior.
Oh, yeah, they don't really count.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you have to do that. If you're in the position of the tyrant, you have to do that to your own mercenaries to tell them you're doing something for good. Because if you tell them, well, I just want more land, at least some of them are going to say, well, that doesn't sound all that good. I don't really want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Let's take a phone call real quick.
Sure.
This is Andrew in California. So, Larken, hold on just 1 second. Okay, Andrew, you are on with Larken Rose. This is the School Sucks Radio Show. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Really enjoying the show. Larken, big fan. Your work is definitely admirable. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
And well, I was just listening to the previous caller, and I find myself listening to him defending a document that pertains truly nothing to him, and that seems to be even his case. I ask questions. Really, my position is never to take one. It's only to ask questions, and I ultimately find status crumbling at the knees at the end because it just doesn't stand up. That's the bottom line. And one of my favorite questions is Constitution. You signed it, right?
Yeah.
It must have been a while ago. I forget signing it.
Or that social contract. Yeah, I find with a real House of Cards ideology like this, a question often looks a lot like a gun pointed at you. It's really threatening when people know. I think, like Larken said earlier in the show, it's subconscious. And when that starts being drawn out of people through that kind of inquisitive process, yes, the reaction, of course, is emotional because this is a religious belief. And it also, there's other things tied to it, like, wow, I've been fooled. Mm-hmm. I've been wrong. People have been lying to me my entire life. It's a lot to process all at once, and for most people, I don't think it can happen all at once.
It's very emotionally difficult to get through that period. Like, to admit, even if the only stumbling block for you is pride, That's a big stumbling block to admit that you were duped.
Sure.
You know?
Yep. And because the belief in government is inherently self-contradictory, all it takes is a few questions, and there's actually a bunch of different lines of questioning that show the contradiction. And so, when you can do it, and it's pretty easy, there's a few different ways to lead a statist to the point where he's saying two diametrically opposed things, and the other guy doesn't have to say anything. Just wait. You just said two things that totally don't match.
Yeah.
I haven't even said what I think yet.
You really
and
just
then
have
they start to get emotional.
Yeah, you really just have to wait. They'll just keep piling more contradictions. The more logical truths you expose them to, the more contradictions they're going to pile on, because contradictions are the only thing that can explain it away.
Right.
And
which is why it takes.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I really like that you said logical, because it really goes hand in hand with kind of the way I've kind of drawn the solution out to some folks of learning how to decode a lot of the rhetoric that we come in contact with. It's grammar, logic, and rhetoric. These three things are very essential in determining the nature of what we're being exposed to. I'm a big fan of Mark Stevens. I've done a lot of research on Mark Stevens and his line of questioning, and I find it just flawless in the way he deals with these bureaucrats who really have no recourse except to say, get the hell out of here, or we're going to have problems. And again, the gun in the room. But it's I really think that, I guess my whole point is that we really need to take a solid look at the reality of our history. There's a book out there. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have read it, but there's Con of the Constitution.
Con of the Constitution?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I think I've read some of it, but I don't remember. I've read a ton of pieces of things.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, it's a book that really goes into very specific detail about the background of the individuals that put pen to paper, or parchment, or hemp in this case. But in this scenario, what they're doing is showing the background motives and how these so-called Federalists were able to infiltrate the true patriots. I mean, the true patriots, such as Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, Patrick Henry was quoted as not even attending the Constitutional Convention because he was said to say, "I smell a rat." And he was absolutely right. Most people don't realize that we actually had 9 sitting presidents under the Articles of Confederation prior to the Constitutional Convention.
Yeah, and most people aren't taught that a lot of the founders that we revere thought the Constitution was a bad idea and recognized the problem inherent in it.
And, I guess the whole thing is he who won the war has gradualistically rewrote the history books. Another thing that I like to tell people about is, if you take a look at the actual term federal, what does it mean? Most people think, anything that has to pertain to government, right? Well, no, it's actually a contract.
So, Andrew,
start off by understanding government by realizing it's a contract, and the whole thing starts to just.
Andrew, we're about to run out of time, and your phone connection is getting pretty choppy. So, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Well, it's been a pleasure. I just like to spread the word as much as I can. You guys do a great job. I'll be a full-time listener to the podcast here in the future, and hopefully I'll be able to call in sometime soon. You guys are going to be on the After Hours show, right?
Right. Yep, we will be back on schoolsucksproject.com/live. You can continue to watch us there after we go off LRN, and I'm guessing less than a minute. So, Andrew, thank you for your call. Larken, thank you so much for being on the regular show. It's been a real pleasure, and like I said, I don't know why we didn't do this years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm really bad at scheduling things, but thanks for finally getting me on.
So, there is more for us to cover on this topic because the argument from authority is very powerful if a person does not have any training in the rules of logic. And like I said at the very beginning of the show, it allows these floodgates to open up for all kinds of fallacies to follow. But there is another fallacy called the argumentum-ad-verecundiam, the appeal to force, that is waiting for those people who begin to not only question the superstition of government, they want to act on it. And we're going to get into that a little bit in just a couple minutes here. This has been School Sucks Live. Thank you for joining us tonight. Go to schoolsucksproject.com/live where we will continue and maybe take a few more calls. For Larken Rose and
Cory,
I am Brett. We will see you in, let's say, 5 to 7 minutes. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back.
sounds good.
Thanks for listening. Take care.